This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's September 9th, 2025. On this day in 1966, the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act became law. At the signing ceremony in the White House Rose Garden, President Lyndon Johnson cited a troubling statistic. He said that at that time, 3 times as many Americans had died in traffic accidents than there were U.S. soldiers lost in 20th century wars. Considering when he said it, that's counting the deaths in both world wars and the Korean conflict. Now, that high number of deaths in car wrecks wasn't for lack of effort on the part of the auto industry. But to that point, they tried to improve safety by lobbying for improvements to the nation's roads and advocating for better driver training. The attitude was basically, cars don't kill people, bad drivers do. The Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act was the culmination of a years-long attempt to turn attention to the vehicles themselves. And automakers hated it. One of the most vocal advocates for change, Ralph Nader, wrote a book about dangerous vehicles called Unsafe at Any Speed, and he testified before Congress. He was pretty severely harassed in response, but his continued efforts, in spite of that poor treatment, ultimately helped turn public opinion and get the law passed, which meant that finally the federal government added a bureau empowered to set safety standards for both road traffic and motor vehicles themselves. That's why we all have seat belts in our cars now. It led to things like headrest redesigns and shatter-resistant windshield glass. The number of fatalities finally started to decline as a result of those changes. And eventually, it was bolstered by state laws saying folks needed to actually use those seatbelts and strap their children into car seats held in place by the belts. And this is one area where our state really shines. You see, in 1978, Tennessee became the first state in the nation to mandate the use of child restraints in cars, thanks to the relentless advocacy of a Murfreesboro pediatrician named Robert Sanders, also known as Dr. Seatbelt. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. One wild detail when you look back at the history of auto safety is that the engineer at Volvo who invented the 3-point seatbelt, and I'm talking about that shoulder belt we all use now, that inventor actually offered the technology for free to any other car maker who wanted it because he felt it was more important to save lives than to profit from his patent. But it took almost a decade for Americans to show any interest. And only after that federal agency was formed to put an emphasis on things like that. And even then, there was an overly long period where cars had seat belts, but not necessarily the really effective 3-point belts. When I was a kid, we had a hand-me-down 1971 AMC Hornet that was made with nothing but lap belts, front and back. Someone at some point had installed aftermarket shoulder straps for the front seats. Those were bolted into the ceiling, and they didn't really retract and hold firm if you moved suddenly. So I'm not really sure how much of an improvement they were. And, lap belts did remain standard for back seats, especially the middle spot, for a long time. Not that many people in the 70s or 80s even thought those were necessary. The folk wisdom of the time said the back seat was somehow just inherently safe. So seatbelts back there were just sort of, extra. That's why you hear so many Gen Xers waxing nostalgic about the time we spent in the cargo area of station wagons as kids. We called it the way back. And you just kind of lounge back there, free to roll around, play with toys, push up against the back window and make faces at the drivers behind you, whatever. No seatbelts involved at all. Never mind what would happen if that other driver rear-ended the car. And, the auto safety story is emblematic of so many other health and safety issues. Again and again, when people push for changes to the way we do things, changes that could save lives, the pushback is that advocates are making a big deal out of nothing, or that they're causing too much of an inconvenience, and for what? A lot of folks tend to want to hold on to the idea that the current amount of death and injury, whatever it may be, is just to be expected. Part of that is probably the arrogance of the now. Just like we like to think that we're far more advanced than generations that came before, we try to avoid thinking about the ways that folks in the future might look back at our time as a comparatively backwards era. It's somehow easier to think that we've reached the best possible balance between keeping things easy and keeping things safe. No improvement necessary. And there's also the whole, well, I made it through alive, didn't I? Didn't you? Line of argument. And who knows how many other bits and bobs of psychology are at play. Bottom line, some folks will always balk or roll their eyes when innovators come forward with new ways to avoid car wrecks or viral illnesses or workplace injuries. Why mess with the status quo, right? There's something similar at play when it comes to how we handle epidemics of drug use and overdose deaths. Except, of course, that comes with an added layer of perhaps not valuing the lives of people who've made taboo behavioral choices or who are perceived as having made a bad decision. Because in real life, addictions begin in a variety of ways. And the range of people who live with addiction is much broader than the stereotypes and conventional wisdom would lead you to believe. But those perceptions run deep, and they are strong motivations for protest. As WPLN's health reporter Catherine Sweeney has reported, communities are often quite uncomfortable when programs start up to help reduce harm to drug users. There are often rumors and concerns about an uptick in crime or just generally unsavory activities. Folks would rather ignore the needs of the people with addiction than have to see with their own eyes the signs that those people are being helped. All this week, This Is Nashville is taking a very deep dive into the world of harm reduction. That's the umbrella term for a variety of efforts to help those drug users survive and live. As you listen to the coverage and conversations on this week's shows, you'll notice a really big emphasis on the humanity of the individuals involved. The show's executive producer, Tasha A.F. Lemley, has a long track record of working directly with some of the most vulnerable populations in Nashville. Among other things, she founded the Contributor Street newspaper, if that gives you a sense of her resume. There are few others I'd trust to such a degree to take these people's stories seriously, handle them with deep sensitivity, but also not sugarcoat anything. And then there's the show's host, Blake Farmer. He was WPLN's health reporter for years, and his work in that role included extended, ongoing coverage of exactly these kinds of things from the medical point of view. He has a deep understanding of why doctors have landed on the kind of approaches they tend to use, the role prescription pharmaceuticals have to play, that kind of thing. What I'm trying to say is that Tasha and Blake are journalists, but to a certain degree, they've also become experts. They know this territory well, and the special focused week is going to draw on their years of experience and countless conversations with the full range of people who deal with this kind of issue every day, both as providers and as people in need of that treatment. This weekend, we dropped a special episode in this podcast feed with a remarkable extended piece of Tasha's coverage for the This Is Nashville series. And in just a few minutes, we'll get another peek at what she's prepared for the harm reduction series, this time shadowing a police officer who's trying to prevent overdose deaths. That's coming up after the newscast.
We know that local government isn't the only part of your life.
Like the mayor, I know that city government isn't the only thing you're concerned with.
We are still struggling to find affordable housing.
Particularly with this bus stop.
That's one of the unique challenges with my business.
I'm WPLN's Metro reporter Cynthia Abrams. I'm working to break down topics like transit, housing, and local government to make sure that when you are thinking about Metro, you're getting the full story. Follow my latest stories at WPLN.org.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Tennessee's Attorney General will not defend a state measure that makes it a crime for elected officials to vote for sanctuary policies. The rule was set early this year as part of a sweeping immigration law adopted during a special legislative session. The ACLU and a group of Nashville Metro Council members sued to stop its implementation. AG Jonathan Scrimetti tells the Tennessee Journal his office has determined the measure is not legally defensible. The bill's sponsor confirmed to the Nashville Banner that the policy has been declared a no-go. But House Majority Leader William Lambert says the law was written so that if one portion was determined illegal, the rest could still be implemented. The law also created a new state division to enforce immigration laws and allocated grant money to help local law enforcement work more closely with ICE. Lambert says having some measures jettisoned is just a side effect of the current Republican strategy in Tennessee, which he says is to push bills that lean as far to the right as possible and see what sticks. Republicans running for Middle Tennessee's special congressional race don't have a lot of time left to convince voters they deserve the party's nomination. With 1 month to go before the primary, Republicans are trying to stand out from a roster of nearly a dozen candidates. WPLN's Miriam reports that the frontrunners don't differ on the issues that much.
The mood on the stage at Friday night's debate was very friendly. Only the top 4 Republican candidates were invited based on polling and fundraising. All 4 agreed on many of the issues. When asked how they might disagree with President Trump, veteran Matt Van Epps, state representatives Gino Bolso and Lee Reeves all demurred.
As an Army guy, I'd like him to spend more time at West Point than Annapolis.
President Trump spends a lot of time on the golf course, and I prefer to spend time on the tennis court.
Well, I'll say this, President Trump is known for his hair. I am also, so there's a difference right there.
State Representative Jody Barrett broke form.
I do differ with the president.
But only about the 2020 COVID vaccine rollout, something Trump himself has backed away from as his base is largely skeptical of vaccines. However, many of the candidates did voice some disagreement with Trump when asked if they would support his proposal of lowering marijuana's drug classification. Gino Bolso says he's not in favor.
Nor am I in favor of legalizing marijuana recreationally or otherwise.
Matt Van Epps says that he would need to look at data and research, but expressed interest in marijuana's mental health benefits for veterans. Lee Reeves says the issue's complicated and not really at the top of his priorities. In this instance, Jody Barrett agreed with Trump, saying that the war on drugs failed and it's time for a new approach.
Part of the reason why our prisons and our jails are overcrowded and chock full of people that have little simple possession charges or drug issues as it relates to marijuana, they don't need to be in prison. They need to be getting help.
Early polling shows all 4 are in for a very tight race. Mariana Baca-Yao, WPLN News.
Nearly half of the Muslim students in Tennessee City say they've been bullied or harassed at school, and roughly a quarter of them say they haven't told their parents and caregivers about that treatment. The American Muslim Advisory Council surveyed kids in Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. 1 out of every 2 elementary school students surveyed say they would not report bullying to a teacher, and almost as many say they have tried to hide their religion from other kids. In middle and high school, nearly 70% of the students who've experienced bullying say their teachers rarely intervene, and just over 10% say the adults at school regularly make harmful remarks about Islam. Meanwhile, the survey finds that policies protecting religious diversity are not always followed. While nearly 3/4 of middle and high school students say they're aware of rules that should give them religious accommodations, nearly half say they've been penalized by teachers or coaches for being absent on religious holidays. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is investing almost $90 million in rural development projects in Tennessee. Many of the loans are to utilities to improve things like wastewater systems. By far the biggest loan is to Duck River Electric Member Corporation, which is based in Shelbyville and reaches 17 counties. A loan of almost $65 million will help the electric cooperative add some 7,000 connections and upgrade more than 200 miles of line. The Tennessee Lookout reports the federal investments come alongside cuts to solar subsidies and work on climate-smart beef. If you're noticing a lot more speed bumps on Nashville neighborhood streets, it's a trend that's ramping up. Metro has made what's known as traffic calming design changes on more than 400 neighborhood streets since 2021. WPLN's Tony Gonzalez has more.
Whatever your opinion about a speed bump, Nashville's neighborhoods are clamoring for them, as well as other safety measures like different types of road striping, better crosswalks, lower speed limits, and other changes to the street design. More than 600 neighborhoods applied. Nashville's transportation department scored the projects by studying car speeds, number of injuries, how many destinations are nearby, like schools or libraries. Then NDOT chooses 25 projects at a time. And for this latest batch, they are literally all over the map, with more than half of the city council districts getting at least one project. Tony Gonzalez, WPLN News.
Traffic calming became a Metro program in 2019. NDOT awards projects twice a year and is now encouraging residents to apply anytime on a rolling basis. This week, the Metro Development and Housing Agency is opening up the waiting lists for affordable housing in 2 of its apartment buildings. The application window for Gurnett Studio Apartments in Edge Hill will open at noon tomorrow. Then on Thursday, people can apply for spots at Edgefield Manor on Shelby Avenue. Preference is given to people with disabilities or who are 62 or older. Otherwise, the lists operate on a first-come, first-served basis. Application forms and more information are on the MDHA website. Meanwhile, home sales in the Nashville region were slightly down in August compared to the same month a year ago. It was a 1% dip, according to the Greater Nashville Realtors. Condo sales, however, were up. There have been mixed signals about Nashville home sales this year. Many months have seen fewer sales than in 2024. The average time on the market for a single-family home ticked down to 49 days, and the median price hovered just above $500,000. That's about 5% higher than a year ago. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Tennessee ranks among the top states with the highest overdose death rates. As tourism in Nashville booms, the city's continuing to explore ways to address the issue, including at a recent harm reduction event downtown. Metro Police Sergeant Mike Hotz, who heads the overdose unit, handed out the reversal medication naloxone. And This Is Nashville's Tasha A.F. Lemley was there to produce this audio postcard.
Most of the folks here, they come to get the resources, and as you can tell, they draw a significant crowd, and it's just a great chance for us to interact with as many people as possible and get harm reduction tools out into the community, like naloxone products. Anybody need Narcan in case somebody has an overdose?
I'll take one.
You know how to use it, sir? Narcan or naloxone products have no negative. It's only positive. You can't overdose on it. You don't get high from it. If it's given to somebody who doesn't have an opioid overdose, no harm, no foul. The only thing it does is save lives from opioid overdoses. Anybody need Narcan in case there's an overdose? Save a life?
I need it. Can I get one?
Yes, ma'am. All right, so if somebody's having an opioid overdose, they'll probably be unconscious. They might not be breathing, or it's going to sound like they're snoring real bad, but you won't be able to wake them up. If that happens, first thing you're going to do is call 911. Other signs and symptoms are fingernails turn blue and the lips turn blue. You can't mistake it. So like I said, get an ambulance coming to you. And then inside that kit I gave you, there's 2 of these doses of naloxone medication. This one is Cloxado, and it's a nasal spray. So what you're going to do, they're one-time use only, so don't practice on them like that, okay? You're going to insert it into the nostril, point it to the outside of the ear if you can, and then you're going to press that plunger just like that. And it's a nasal spray just like allergy medicine or something like that. You sit and watch them for 2 to 3 minutes. If they wake up or start breathing, you're good. Just wait on that ambulance. If they don't wake up or start breathing, you're going to go in that kit and get the second dose, but you're going to do it in the other side of the nostril in case this one's blocked. Thanks for saving lives.
Yes, always.
Anybody need Narcan in case there's an overdose? Save a life.
Yeah, I need some. Yeah.
You know how to use it?
Yeah, I need 3 of them.
I'll give you 2. How about
yeah.
Right,
Oh, give me one more. One more.
I'll give you 2. Getting people into treatment and into recovery is the only way we're going to get to the other side of this overdose crisis. This Narcan that we're handing out here, it is saving lives, and it definitely contributed to the 38% reduction in fatalities that we saw in 2024. But Narcan doesn't treat addiction. The only way to reduce the demand for the product on the street is to get people into treatment and on the other side into recovery. Narcan in case there's an overdose, save a life.
I've got plenty.
Good, you all stocked? Good. Anybody need Narcan in case there's an overdose?
I got too much.
Got you, ma'am. Anybody need Narcan? Yeah, I think we've reached market saturation.
Bring it on home to me.
You can hear more of Tasha A.F. Lemley's reporting on efforts to reduce overdoses in the This Is Nashville podcast feed, as well as conversations with experts and folks with lived experiences. But I'd really recommend you attempt to tune in live at noon on Thursday, either streaming at our website or listening to the radio, 90.3 FM, old school, because that's when there will be a call-in show seeking your experiences. Again, that's at noon on Thursday on WPLN's This Is Nashville. And thanks for listening to this, the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. And if you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.